Well, let's speak now to Joe Hamilton, also wrongly convicted based on evidence which came from the faulty Horizon 8 IT system. Very good morning to you, Joe. I know you're going to be at the inquiry today. What is it that compels you to want to be there in the room?
Well, I'm pretty much here every week anyway. I've been following it because I feel my journey won't be over until I see the end of this. But yeah, it's really fantastic that the group, the Justice for Sub-Postmistresses Alliance, has actually got us here. But I think they've almost got lost in all the excitement of all the announcements yesterday, because the group of sub-postmasters who actually have enabled all of this has still not been properly compensated. And yeah, they offered 75,000, which might be enough for some of the people who had tiny claims, but I would think the bulk of those 500 people, it will not be enough. And so the journey goes on, which I find absolutely awful. You know, why can they not give the group closure? We had the group litigation, which we won in 2019, and they're still trying to get money from Post Office.
Joe, just help those people who don't know the story inside out, as you of course do, because this is your life that you're talking about. Can you just explain to people how it is that that £75,000 figure you mentioned is the one that is being offered to you and other members of your group, but people will be aware there is another figure they'll have heard of, the £600,000 sum of money. Can you just explain how it is that one is applied to one group and not to the other?
Well, the group of sub-postmasters, me included, I was one of the criminalised ones, we had to join what they call the overturned conviction scheme. So they hooked us out of the 555, and we have access to criminal compensation, and I have had some, which, to be honest, is life-changing. And I know it would be as the people in the group that are left fighting for compensation, it really doesn't mean very much to them, because they haven't had access, well, they've had access to virtually nothing so far. I think 0.5% of those 500 people have had any kind of money.
Joe, I don't know, and you can tell me. I know you've been at the...
It's difficult to understand.
Yes, absolutely, but no, I think that was a good explanation. Can I ask you one other thing, Joe? I know you say you've been in the room for a lot of the inquiry. I understand today that one of the former Post Office investigators is going to be questioned, and I would imagine, given what you went through and how crucial to all of this, those mistakes or what happened in terms of the IT, hearing what one of those Post Office investigators saying will be very, very important, both important in terms of the investigation, but also in terms of your emotions of what happened to you.
Yes, I've been up here for my man. He was on before Christmas, but I'm here on behalf of a couple of friends who this was their investigator. I mean, a lot of what they say they can't remember. So, you know, the bulk of it will be as I don't recall, which we know. But it is actually quite nice to be here, because you see the body language, and it's nice to see them squirm a bit.
I'm sure a lot of people will understand you saying that. Can I take you back to that time when you eventually pleaded guilty to something that you knew you hadn't done? And I suppose in many ways that's what it boils down to, that you ended up in a situation where you admitted something you knew you didn't do.
Well, I always pleaded guilty. They only ever charged me with theft in the beginning, and we got right to trial, and they said, well, if you plead guilty to false accounting, we'll drop the theft. And at the time, we're 20 years ago, we didn't really know what was happening. I had no idea anyone else was having the problems, and I always technically thought I might be guilty of false accounting because I'd given up phoning the help desk and was signing off accounts that I knew weren't right, because I was already paying back tens of thousands of pounds to them. So I felt I had no choice but to plead guilty, because basically I was terrified of going to prison. But I was really lucky because the village turned up in court to support me, and I was actually spared prison.
Joe, we very much appreciate your time today, and I know you're just about to go into the inquiry itself when it starts a little later this morning. So thank you very much for your time this morning. That is Joe Hamilton, who was another of those former sub-postmistresses caught up in the scandal, who, as you heard, will be attending for another day to hear firsthand the testimony today of one of the post office investigators, one of those who carried out the original investigations.